is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. All right, here. So we have Russell Wilson, a Giant, Stefon Diggs, a Patriot, and UFL fan yawning. Well, at least for 3 of the 4 games. I shouldn't spoil things like that. But you are tuned into Total Football Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you see it on the screen. Welcome to number 78. That's right, episode 78 of Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting news, gridiron in action, and fun, just the way you like it. Well, I am one of the co-hosts of this program, as you can see, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the EP of all EPs. No, that's not how I say it. No. Try this again. Cole Johnson, mad scientist, and the EP of all EPs. There we go. And now I am joined, as always, because I'm not doing this alone, by my other co-host of this program, the one that you know as Mr. Inter-Out Sports Debate, the one you know as Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report, the one that you know as Mr. D. Willie in the Evening. Yes, the man who is the fun, the excitement, and the pizzazz of Total Football Talk, the one, the only, D. Willie, Drew Willingham. How you doing, sir?
It is always an honor, joy, and privilege to be here with you, as always there, sir. Episode, as you click the button and said it, 78 is in the books, or is at least started.
Yes,
you know, and over the course of the past year, almost 2 years now, we've done a lot of cool stuff with this project, and we launched Total Football Talk Extra. Mm-hmm. And over the weekend, I did something a little different. And with that being said, let's take a look at a small clip from Total Football Talk's Extras play-by-play. We have a touchdown by the Renegades. Finally, they give it to him. As Davion Smith takes it in, we have gotten the clock down to 4 minutes and 45 seconds as a result. Davion Smith, number 9, gets it done. 6-0. Arlington Renegades. UFL. This game is pretty tight. We did not have a close game last night between the two teams that we saw on Friday Night Football between the Battlehawks and the Roughnecks. This is how the first game started. We are in game 2 right now, the 4 o'clock game on Fox, as we are covering it here on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real. Be awesome. I'm your host, Drew Willingham. The 2-point attempt is here. They're going for it out from the 5-yard line. Luis Perez is in the shotgun, standing back on the 10, gets the ball, steps back, throws it into the end zone. It is caught by Sal Cannella, number 80. 2-point conversion is good. Arlington Renegades are up 8-0 to start this game out.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do too bad. That was the first ever play-by-play I ever did on the interwebs by myself.
Well, I'm proud of you. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't join you for personal reasons, but wow, it looked like you had fun doing it.
Definitely was. It was a lot of fun. Next time I'll plan ahead a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course I plan to do last night's game, or the secondary game of Sunday's game between the Stallions and the Defenders. Get the times mixed up, so that was a rookie mistake. I would say, with the play-by-play, I will call myself a rookie there, but it did pretty good. With the channel not really doing as much in content, the views, it cut back a little bit, and it did pretty decent on views. Things have spiked up a little bit, so hopefully that's a decent sign of things to come. We'll see.
Well, that's good. That's good. And, well, here's a portent of things to come. I hope everything worked out well. I hope it continues to work out well. And, yeah, and we'll be having more of that as the UFL season goes along. And if it is successful, might do it for the CFL season too. Who knows? But for right now, we were talking, you caught just a glimpse of what we're about to do now. Opening drive for week 1 of the UFL regular season kickoff.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2, on 2, on 2. Ready? Ready.
I would love to say that we had some great games. One was okay, but let's be honest, the other 3 basically were, let me see if I can find the right way to describe it. It was, I think it was, 3 dumpster fires and 1 decent game. But we will begin by touching on the first game, the game that kicked off the second season of the UFL. The Houston Roughnecks hosting the St. Louis Battlehawks, probably the most popular team in the UFL. It was really not a competition at all. 31-6. The Battlehawks basically just steamrolled, and I really do mean steamrolled all over the Roughnecks. Manny Wilkins, decent game, 17-22, 189 yards. He also had 2 touchdowns on the ground on 8 carries for 43 yards. Jarvion Howard, he got you 115 yards and 13 carries with a touchdown. He also had 18 yards on 3 receptions. Jacob Sayers, not to be outdone by one Mr. Howard, 16 carries, 98 yards. He had a rushing touchdown as well. 4 receptions for 47 yards through the air. You noticed that you heard 43 from Wilkins on the ground, Howard with 115 on the ground, Sayers with 98 on the ground. That was most of the Battlehawks' 273 yards on the ground. So kudos to the big uglies for the Battlehawks. Shakur Peterson, 6 receptions, 83 yards through the air. And on defense for the Battlehawks, Lucas Dennis and Quinterio Cole each got you a pick. And also Peter Tomopino, he gave you a couple sacks as well. For the Roughnecks, Nolan Henderson, 7 of 18, 68 yards. He did throw for a touchdown. He also rushed for 54 yards on 4 carries. And Anthony Brown, rough. He put the rough in Roughnecks. 5 of 11, 21 yards, and 2 INTs. Your thoughts on the kickoff of the UFL Season 2 with the Battlehawks destroying the Roughnecks?
Battlehawks came out swinging. They absolutely crushed it as the away team in Houston. I mean, the Roughnecks last year, 1-9, an absolute terrible team last year, and it looked like they're on pace to be a terrible team yet again. And I was concerned about the Battlehawks, with having to change a quarterback, McCarron not coming back. They let him go after last season. And, of course, he was getting older, and you want to start looking towards the future. I like what Manny Wilkins did, though, leading this team on offense, 31 points. Also, 2 rushing touchdowns. You can't look away from that, But Javion Howard, though, big part of what kind of established the flow, because you and I, have said it many times throughout 77 episodes previous. Running game establishes everything on offense. So,
yes, sir. Yes,
and they got it going in this game between those two. Defense holding the Roughnecks, which really isn't hard when you look at how they played last year. And they didn't improve really over the offseason. That's the sad part. I don't see any type of improvement from this team. It's going to be a long year for Houston, unfortunately, but for the Battlehawks here, with what they have, and also with Sayers as a receiver, it was not as a receiver, another running back. Between those two running backs, between Howard and Sayers, 29 carries. That's absolutely wild. And you have two, and he was just 2 yards short of 100 yards. So, looking at it for what it is, 29 carries between two running backs. That's great deal for your offense. It's going to be an exciting year for this Battlehawks team. They have a young team, very exciting team. I think 2025 is going to be a good year for this one, and another team that I didn't expect to say I think is going to be at the top of the league when we talk about them here shortly.
Yeah, and like you said, between Howard and Sayers, 29 carries, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns between them. I'll take that every week. That type of production. Yeah, the Battlehawks will be just fine. Of course, we'll see how well they do adjust with life after AJ McCarron. But Manny Wilkins seemed to do well because he kept the offense on time and
didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, and then he did the most important thing. He did not turn the ball over. So that's all you can ask. As for the Roughnecks, they dropped to 0-1 as the Battlehawks improved to 1-0. The Roughnecks look like they're going to be just as star-crossed and rough to look at, to dissect, to analyze, and to watch as last year. Good boy. And shout out to our brother Snowman. He's checking in. He says that he's down the stretch in wound care. Hope everything is fine with you, sir. Heal, and heal some more. Now, as we continue, that was the Friday game. The Saturday game, the one that you actually got a chance to see my brother actually do play-by-play on. So we will go back to that one. We'll go to the Sunday's game, actually. The first Sunday game, the Panthers and the Showboats. Well, the Showboats were the home team. The Panthers basically decided to toy with their food and not have much to deal with. They coasted to an easy 26-12 victory, and really the game wasn't that close. Bryce Perkins, 16 of 19, 163 yards, and a throwing touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown on 6 carries for 14 yards. On defense, the Panthers' Frank Ginda gave you 6 solo tackles. Now, for the Showboats, Troy Williams, he gave you an interception on 8 of 11 for 104 yards. E.J. Perry, I think in substitute, 10 of 17, 93 yards. He gave you an interception as well, but he did throw for a touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 7 yards. And Jonathan Adams pretty much was the star of, I guess you could say, the skill position players for the game. 6 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown for the Showboats. Your thoughts on the Panthers going to 1-0 in Memphis?
The story of the Nakua brothers continues, and it was big for the Panthers on this day as both brothers scored touchdowns. Samson Nakua and Kai Nakua, and one of them did it to be the final score of the game for their team in a defensive play, and that being Kai Nakua. But Samson Nakua, though, he had 2 receptions for 35 yards, even though it's not a huge amount of production on yards, because, they were spreading the ball out between Sims, Turner, Mariner, and himself, and even Colburn, had a couple catches. But on 2 targets, Nakua caught his passes, and averaging 17.5 yards per catch. That 125-yard catch for the touchdown was nice to see. And then Sampson with that turnover there at the end to make this a final score of 26-12. It was 20-12 at that point. Showboats were struggling a little bit throughout this game. Troy Williams there with that costly interception at the end. They had a chance to come back and tie this game, Cole. It's 20-12. They could have gone for the 2-point conversion. Could have tied it up right there at the end, but they get down in about field goal range. Troy Williams slings the rock, throws a perfect pass to Nakua, to the other team, and then he runs it back, and it gets to 26 points. Good on the Nakua brothers for standing out in this game. It's just a shame that this can't translate into the NFL, and then we have all three in and the Nakua brothers on like the same team. They'd be cool if they're on the same team, of course, for the parents' sake too. Just like the Boza brothers tried to be on the same team for like a split second, but of course, it's a business at the end of the day too. So, for what it is, for what's happening in the UFL, it's big. I feel like it's a pretty big story for the UFL and what they're trying to build up from where they're at. Still a long way to go for this league, but for the Nakua brothers, it's a pretty nice story to have on this Monday. EJ Perry, playing for the Showboats, he's needed to step it up. 93 yards is not going to cut it in a game for passing. But I think the big part of this too is their offensive line struggled, which is why it took them to the very end of the game to where they were even in the position that they were. Williams has a lot of pressure that's in his face. So when you have all that pressure in your face, it dictates the decisions that you make, especially if you're one that gets rattled kind of easy. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the case for Williams, but it looked to be the story in this game against the Panthers.
Well, it looked like, when I saw the stats and I saw the highlights, I was like, it looks like this was a close game and a struggle for both teams. And, of course, I think I expect, we both, because we've seen a lot of football over our course of life. I think normally it takes a while for offenses to really get going. Normally defenses which defenses is basically read and react type of thing. They normally would be pretty much on things. But offenses, it takes a while to get going. So this was endemic, I think, of what you normally would see in football, where not all was just kicking or clicking, but some can, and you see signs of, and you see, you see, I guess you see glimpses of hope if you're on offense. So, hopefully, the Showboats can get off the schneid, as they say, and hopefully the Panthers can continue their winning streak of one game. But if the offense could get, if the offense can get on track and the defense can continue the way they are, I think they will. I think they will have some something to say about things later on in the year. And shout out to Sig Dicky. He says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody. He says, so what's good? Everything's good with us, sir. Hope everything is good with you this lovely afternoon in Norway. Now, I think, there's a button that's supposed to hit. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the upset of the week portion of the program, where it was the San Antonio Brahmas traveling up north to the Metroplex to battle the Arlington Renegades. This was the game that my co-host and brother called, and it was not a competition. The Renegades ran roughshod over the Brahmas 33-9. The Renegades putting forth the most points for the week in the UFL. Luis Perez, 20 of 25, 164 yards. It wasn't a clean game for him. He did throw a pick. He also carried the ball twice for 18 yards. Kalen Balash, he was pretty good in this game. 16 carries, 110 yards and a touchdown. He also had a reception for 9 yards on the day as well. The Renegades offense was about that ground action boss, 183 yards on the ground. For the Brahmas, Kellen Mond, 17 of 31, 159 yards. He also had 3 carries for 19 yards. And defensively, you had two standout guys, both last name with certain name of Williams. Jordan Williams with 8 solo tackles. Greedy Williams, yes, Greedy, Greedy, with 6 solo tackles. But the Brahmas just simply could not get on track, and everything was just falling for the Renegades. Your thoughts on this game, and you actually called it, so what did it look like?
Oh, it was there's words that I want to say that I cannot say at this time. That's the first thing I want to say at this time. That's the best way I could describe it to start off. It was fun for me because it was the first one, And I'd say the first quarter was pretty interesting.
Not bad.
But then after that, it just started to slip away. Kellen Mond, 25 years old, very young. He's the reason why he's not in the NFL. It shows in this game. It showcased why he is not in the NFL by the play that he displayed in this game. He didn't have sound decision making.
Yeah,
he had about 50% completed on passes, 159 yards, but he lacked a lot of leadership in moments to where 9 points is not going to cut it. In the Arlington Renegades, yes, they were playing great on both sides of the ball. It wasn't just offense. They were doing great on defense as well. And Luis Perez showcased why he has been at the top of this league as the quarterback, leading the way for the past few years while he was a part of the XFL, and now while we're in the second year of the UFL. But during that time, towards the end of the XFL, when he was with the Renegades, to now part of the XFL championship team of the Arlington Renegades roster from that point. He did great. I mean, yeah, he did have an interception, but overall, 20 of 25, 164 yards. Yeah, he did only have 5 more yards than Kellen Mond, but he also led the way with a couple carries. But overall, his just demeanor and poise in certain moments, that's why he was 20 of 25 in completions on the day. And to take away the interception, he completed 20 of 24 passes. Ballage, 16 of carries, 110 yards, and a touchdown with a reception for 9 yards. Just like you said here, he looked great. And the 77-yard touchdown run that he had is actually a UFL record. So for him to do that, it was historic for one. But a big part of his 110 yards was that big 77-yard run. It looked great. I think if I pull this graphic back up again, this is right after the run. It's him right there, number 4, celebrating after his 77-yard touchdown run. And for what he did, the contributions in this game, he's a second-year returning player. There's a lot of them that have been returning between a lot of these games that we've talked about in these first 3 games, and he is one of them. And it showcased that the time that he put in with this team, that chemistry is paying off in this moment. So good on him, good on this team for what they were able to do, putting up 33 points in a year in 2024 where it didn't go their way, just a year removed from making it to the UFL or the XFL championship at that point. Last year was the first year of the UFL's combination of the USFL and XFL.
Right.
But the year prior, they were like a 4-6 team who made it to the XFL championship out of 10 games, 4-6.
Yep.
You make it to the XFL championship dance, and you get to last year. It was a tough one, 3-7. So you start this out with a very, very big win against a team who just made it to the UFL championship in the first year of the UFL, going against the Stallions. They got whooped. Cole, 25-0. All right, we're not going to go over there and rub it in too much, but I just did a little bit, just a little bit. All right, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But right now, here and now, on this day, I guess we got to rub it in a little bit more because you went from losing 25-0 in the last game you just played to now in this upset of the week. You and I didn't call this last week when we said the Brahmas could potentially take this game and take this game on the road in Arlington. Because, I mean, yes, it is a road game, but the factor that we talked about was still in Texas. You're not going but so far. It's not like you're going across the country, and the way this league is set up with the 8 teams is you're not really going but so far. You're all on the same coast. So I didn't see this. I didn't see it 33-9 change it, but we also have a different quarterback for the Brahmas, and it's just, that's what I mean. It just felt different watching this team. Like, from the way the game started to the way it ended, it just didn't feel like the San Antonio Brahmas, and it doesn't feel like Wade Phillips is going to be there in 2026 as the head coach if things don't turn around real quick, because the Arlington Renegades look like what you being the Brahmas, should have looked like in this game. Greedy Williams, 6 solo tackles, and Jordan Williams 8 solo tackles. That was the only highlight that you had to put on the slate, and it shows because that's really what the only highlight was for this team. Renegades offense, like you said, 183 rushing yards. A lot of that came from Ballage, and a lot of that came from that 77-yard run. However, you can't take away from what that offense did collectively, and you can't take away from what their defense did too, because their defense actually stood out to me in multiple areas, and I want to touch up on that for a second when we look at the matchup between these two. With the Renegades here, look at Thomas III. You know, he had 3 solo tackles, and then looking at what Payne and Price and Dorn did in the combination of that unit there on defense, holding the Brahmas to 9 points. When you have actually returning players with Javante Kirkland, the receiver over there, who you held him to only 39 yards on 4 catches out of 8 targets. He had 8 targets, and he only caught half of them. So to keep a returning player held at that point, I would say when you look at the offense, though, for the Renegades, between Canella and Vaughns, who are returning players as well, and Canella reminded me a lot of Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. When you watch him play the tight end position for that team, I mean, he reminds me a lot of just the style of how he was playing, a lot like Sam Laporta. Like, you know, just go back and watch, guys. Go back and watch the highlights. I don't know if it really shows it in the highlights, but I'm just thinking as the game as the whole, because when you call the game and you see it from that point of view, from end to end, you can go into more of an in-depth view of it than you would as just a regular viewer of the game, if that makes any sense. Or it's just how you approach it and how you watch and how you approach it. But looking at that, looking at the rest of this team, they got something special over there in Arlington. I think the torch has been passed, or I wouldn't say the torch, but the momentum of where the Brahmas were at one point shifted. And now the Renegades have picked up the momentum and are now rolling with it. I know it's 1 week, but it looked great in 1 week.
Yeah, and I was going to ask how was that defense, because although I couldn't find one person that stood out, it was basically it was a team for the Renegades. It was a team effort on defense.
Yeah,
and to me I think that's impressive all its own. Because you can actually say, well, yeah, all 3 levels, all 11 guys played as one unit, and when you have that, you can put forth great results like that. Because I mean, they really did make the Brahmas struggle the whole game, and I find that to be impressive. And yeah, if Ballage can actually continue on like he did yesterday, I think, or Sunday, I'm sorry, I think the Renegades I think they have something. And if that defense could continue to do what they're doing, we might be looking at I won't say the team in the UFL, but I think we're looking at probably a team that could probably put it together. And they're going to be an exciting watch if they keep doing this. But yeah, shout out to the Renegades. Wonderful effort. They were basically, to be the little engine that could all last year, and now it looks like they may have gotten over that hump. As for the Brahmas, yeah, they had a hot start and then they sort of slowed down last year, and it seems like they're carrying that slow finish on to 2025. They start 0-1. The Renegades begin 1-0. And the perfect description of this game, outside of you, and congratulations to you on your initial play-by-play coverage. That would be one digging and saying that the Brahmas Renegades game wasn't only bowling shoe ugly, but it came with a pair of ugly, dirty, and stank feet.
I give that to you as well as a big old fat-o.
Yeah, the Brahmas took a big fat L. Yep, no question. Woo. But again, your coverage was not an L.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to doing it again. and with others, I kind of want to do something like the Peyton and Eli broadcast, where you have different people on per quarter, or or even just you can still have them, people on throughout the whole thing, but maybe not the whole thing. I like how they do it because it keeps it fresh. We had the same people. It's like, say, like if me and you started a game, but we had a guest every quarter, or something. Or maybe one per half, like if we had somebody for the first half and somebody for the second one, because I would say probably that. And that's another thing too. I comment on this throughout the game, and even Sick was there and could tell and testify to this. The game went by really fast because there's a lot of points throughout where the clock just continues to run. Where I still I need to go back and still double check the rules, but I don't understand why, like, on an incomplete pass, the game clock's still running.
Oh, well, the NFL likes to steal stuff, and I hope they don't steal that idea.
You run out of bounds, clock's still running. I'm like, what the is the point? Like, what is the point? Like of running out the bounds, the clock's still gonna run. I may have misspoke. It was either he got hit out of bounds or he ran out of bounds. I need to go back and see that part. But it was in that game.
Well, if that is the case, like I said, I hope the NFL doesn't steal that idea, because there'll be a lot of angry fans then.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they would argue. Oh, it makes the game shorter. Yeah,
it was just a weird combination, because then you got to factor in, because it's on Fox. There's a lot of commercials. That's another thing too. I need to go back and update. I didn't add all the commercials. I only added like one, because I was like, I'm only gonna have to click this every so often. There were so many commercials. I probably clicked that one commercial thing like 20 times. It's like, all right, guys, Fox is going to break. So are we. And I set it up for like one little 2-minute thing, so it gives me a second to step up, go grab a water from the fridge or whatever.
Right.
Come back, and even some of them I even left it on a loop just in case. There's one time it just played 4 minutes straight of two commercials, the same commercial pack twice. I know Sick's probably out there watching this like, how many times are we gonna watch the same commercial? Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, it was the same commercial pack, 2 commercials in there. I'm gonna fix that, because I'm gonna try to do one more for this weekend. I'm gonna make sure I have the time right for the second, like I did for the second game. But I'm gonna make sure I have all that straight. And I'll start talking to people about that here in the next 48 hours. Start lining something up for this weekend, because it was fun. It was definitely fun.
Sounds like it was. Yeah.
The part that was fun was the interaction. There was a decent amount of interaction, from the crowd. But the thing that's hurt is we haven't had consistent stuff each week, or at least I haven't. So I think that hurt the viewership a little bit. But to get the type of turnout that we got for a very last second, and it's UFL. It's not like it was NFL. Like, if I was doing this for the NFL, I could, but I couldn't start doing it until recently, because last week I actually upgraded the RAM in my computer to 64 gigabytes of RAM, which for processing, when you have multiple applications up, like, because you got to have a screen with the game, okay?
Right.
You're not sharing it, so you're not watching it, but just to give people an insight of like how it's done. Like, you got a screen. Like, sometimes when you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm looking at another screen. But you got a screen of the game, and then here's me and you, or like the production of what we're doing. So that's how you can go back and do that. And when you think about the amount of commercials and the time that it was going, there was a lot of things that you see why productions are the way they are. They're in depth. But it was fun, and the things that we do here on a weekly basis with this project, and then the other stuff I've done in the past too, and presently, like, it's a lot of good practice to where it just felt natural. It was fun. So you just do what you do, but it's going to be a lot more fun when I get to do that type of thing with other people, like when we do this on Monday, because it makes it even 10 times sweeter when you get to share it with somebody else, and you have a great time along the way. Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally. Well, here's to more, and here's to the Renegades for actually putting forth a good effort. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, again, the defense, they did their thing. 1 through 11, all three phases. That's how you're supposed to do it defensively. And Kalen Ballard, he showed up and showed out. 33-9. The Renegades destroyed and dismantled the Brahmas. If your smell is not what the Brahmas are saying now. Po fellas.
It might not be what he's saying, but he is saying this at least.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Well, at least that's
to the Brahmas.
Yeah, and I think that's what the coaching staff is saying to the players. And before I go to the next game, the one issue that I've always had about Bum's son or Wade is that, especially defensively, the first year seems to go really well, and the second year seems to go horrible. It's almost as if teams just figure out what they do defensively, and they just dismantle the team. It's the darndest thing. I mean, almost every stop he has made, even his head coaching stops, it's been that way defensively for him. So, and of course, he's at the tail end of his coaching career. I mean, he doesn't have to do any coaching anymore. So this might be the last time we see him on the sideline.
In that game, just from that game or for the season?
No. I'm talking about for the season.
Like this is farewell tour.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be. Shout out to Constipated in the City. Prayers out to you, sir. Glad that you are feeling better.
Sorry to see that, man.
Yeah.
So you're out of the hospital now. Good. You're out of the hospital and at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Glad you're healing up. Hopefully you continue your healing. And yes, Drew and I will be enjoying WrestleMania in your hometown. We won't be in Vegas, but of course your hometown's
hopefully
Vegas.
One day.
Oh yeah, hopefully one day. Yes, but we'll be enjoying WrestleMania, which is about 3 weeks from now. Wow. But
it's going to be here quick. So we should get a John Cena promo tonight. You know, with it being on being Raw and on Netflix. So when I get home from work later tonight, I'll be able to watch it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it will be. But yeah, shout out to you, Constipated in the City. Hope everything is well with you. Keeps getting better for you. And we'll be praying for you, sir. And now to the game of the week, which actually features, even though DC is not my partner's hometown, he's about maybe a couple hours away from it. But the DC Defenders, they were at home to meet up with the defending UFL champion Birmingham Stallions. And the game was rather it wasn't the spectacular game that it would be, but it's actually the closest one. But the Defenders defended home field. You saw what I did there. And being stalwart, and they beat the Stallions 18-11. Jonathan Tamu, was uneven in his performance. 13-37, 211 yards. He did throw for a touchdown. He also threw a pick as well. And he also carried the ball twice for a -1 yard. Anthony Hines Jr., Anthony Hines III, on the defensive end for the Defenders. 6 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and a fumble recovery. Derek Roberson, he also had a couple sacks as well, and a couple of tackles for losses. DeAndre Baker, he also had a pick. And the Defenders' defense went absolutely ballistic, but I'll save that for last. For the Stallions, Alex McGough, 10-23, 89 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. 8 carries for 84 yards. That pretty much is all the stalwart figures for the Stallions, because this game was about the Defenders' defense. 9 tackles for losses, and count them, 8 sacks. 8 of them. Put McGough to the ground 8 times. Stallions offensive line, I think you received the biggest of the week. your thoughts on the defenders living by their name defensively against the defending champion Stallions?
Running game is something they definitely lacked last year, a little bit surprisingly in a lot of areas, even though they were able to dominate as a whole because that defense was nasty last year of the Stallions, which is why they won so many games. It bailed them out in so many opportunities where they had to lose, and it definitely came through in the clutch again, where when you look at how they ended the year. But I would say it did not come through in the clutch when you look at the fact that their running attack does what it does and just absolutely fell in their face. Their offensive line, though, it looks like there's some gapes and holes there, too. Because it might have some other opportunities being played somewhere else after what they did for that team over the past 3 years. Because you had 3 years of greatness between the USFL and the UFL, where you won 3 straight championships between 2 leagues. I mean, technically the same league as it merged.
Right.
But, I mean, you won your 2 straight championships to end the USFL, and then the first year as a combined unit, you do it. Of course, there's going to be opportunities that are made by players that are a key part of that success, and your team's going to be depleted a little bit. And teams like the Michigan Panthers and the St. Louis Battlehawks definitely retooled over the offseason, but the Birmingham Stallions look like they're a little depleted in comparison to what they once were. So right here and now, the DC Defenders definitely gain benefits of it. But I am concerned about what I saw from Jordan Ta'amu. Is still turning the ball over. He still is very prone to turning the ball over, and it's just one with the 1 interception. But I'm very concerned about that. You were bailed out by your defense, containing the Stallions to 11 points when they just put up 25 points against the Brahmas in the championship game to win their 3rd consecutive championship. So I'm very concerned for the Stallions for the rest of this year. From seeing this right here and now, they're not winning the UFL championship, and I may be wrong in saying that with 9 games left in the season. But if this is a display for things to come for 2025, it's not looking good for Birmingham. It's looking great for the previous teams we talked about, like the Renegades and the Panthers and the Battlehawks. I should say the Renegades retooled too to put them in the statement I just made with the Panthers and the Battlehawks retooling over the offseason. But teams like the Brahmas were their quarterback, and they had many holes and deficits they had to fill during this past offseason with San Antonio. It looks like Birmingham was caught in that fire, and Memphis and Houston already struggled. But the 4 teams I just mentioned right there are the bottom 4 teams of the league now, and they're poised to look like that for the remaining 9 weeks of this season, unfortunately. And we'll see how things go and how they shake out. But between Jordan Ta'amu playing pretty shaky, 17-37 for 211, if you play like this against any of those top teams like the Renegades and the Panthers and the Battlehawks, you're going to lose. Even if you did throw 200 passing yards, the only thing that may save this team, and that would be if this defense consistently plays like they did in this game, because that's obviously why they won, because they were able to contain the other team to 11 and they scored 18. But the pressure that they put on their quarterback on the other side for Birmingham, you can't deny. I mean, the amount of sacks between Hines and Roberson, and then Baker having that interception. 9 tackles for loss, like you said, and 8 sacks. It's video game. That is video game.
Yes.
Out here, and that's literally how it felt watching this as far as that type of defense. And you're not going to see that type of dominance on a consistent basis. But the crazy thing is we were seeing dominance similar to that on a consistent basis
on the other side
from Birmingham for the past 3 years. And in the first game of the 2025 season, we get to see something different. We get to see the team that's been like the New England Patriots of the USFL actually get thumped, and they did. They got thumped in this game. As far as the loss, this was the closest one of the entire week 1 matchups as far as points, right?
Right.
18-11, 7 points. It was close. It's the game of the week for a reason because of the two teams that are playing. Like the defenders
Right.
haven't been terrible. Yes, they've been known for the beer snake for the past few seasons, which is still pretty cool. But now we got to be known in DC for a team that's actually winning, and this could be something that's a spark for the future. But at the same time, when I look at this team as a whole, I'm very concerned in comparison to the other three teams that won this past week. The other three teams, like the Renegades and the Panthers and the Battlehawks, have legitimate discussions that you can look at it from anybody at this point, even though it's only 1 week, and say that they could potentially win the UFL championship. And some say that might be crazy to talk about now, but it's a short season. It's only 10 weeks.
Right.
Like, it's going to go by like that.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were making predictions last year throughout weeks 1 and 2 already, and most of what we said came true. Like, we weren't really far off based on what we had seen the previous year.
Right.
And and we said that the Stallions looked like they were poised to win based on what they did in the USFL. And I don't think we were not right about our XFL picks, because what the Defenders did the previous year, I was high on them, and I rode that wave, and I stuck it out last year saying, yeah, the Defenders are going to face Stallions in the UFL championship, and I was wrong, far wrong, because the Brahmas were actually pretty bad the year before that, where they had retooled and were an actual pretty good team. So it looks like, based off of week 1 and now talking about the game of the week, that it's now shifted again to where the dominant team, it's been monopolized. It has been controlled. It's going to be like a 500 team, maybe 6-4. I don't see the Birmingham Stallions winning more than 6 games, and I'm being generous when I say that. But I think maybe 5-5. I wouldn't be surprised, though, based on what we saw in this game, if they do not finish at a 500 record, if they're 4-6 or less. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not predicting that at this point. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised based on the play from what we saw in this game.
Yeah, I think what from the Stallions' end, obviously, no running game. That has to change if they're going to compete. And you were talking about Kellen Mond and the decision-making or lack thereof with him. Alex McGough pretty much displayed the same thing. And I think you can't have that. You can't have a shaky leader under center and expect to go places. And so, to me, that's a bit shaky. The defense seemed to be okay. I won't say it was great, but it seemed to be okay. And if they can offensively get going, maybe the Stallions can right the ship. Now, for the Defenders, the defense bailed them out. There's no question about that. The defense bailed the offense out. The offense was uneven from the quarterback position. They could not get going on the ground. And I agree with you. If they played the Battlehawks or the Renegades or the Panthers, this game would be an L for the Defenders, because you can just show that you only are good for possibly throwing a lot, and you can't get going on the ground, and you gotta hope and pray that your defense can get a takeaway. You can wish on one hand and have something good on the other, and sometimes you can wish on one hand and get nothing on the other. The Defenders' running game has to get going, and if it doesn't, I can't really say this team will be competing for a UFL crown. But if they can, and the defense can, I won't say that they'll have 9 tackles for losses and 8 sacks every game. We know that's not going to happen. But if they can put forth that type of effort, I think that they can. I want saying spoiler would be insulting. They can make life difficult for the teams that actually will compete for the crown. But if they can get a running game going, I really would feel a lot better for the Defenders. And I think Ta'amu would need that because he needs to settle down in the pocket. Well, that concludes this week's Game of the Week, and it also concludes week 1 of the UFL review in opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Ready.
But we're not done. Now where my dogs at? Welcome once again to Total Football Talk's Grand Champ, where we award the guy, well, since this is the male thing, the guy that stood above the rest. And for his Grand Champ, Drew, the floor is yours, sir.
So for my Grand Champ of the Week this week, we've got to talk about somebody who set an NFL record. Somebody who, well, not an NFL record, a UFL record. I misspoke, but somebody who set a UFL record for the longest run ever established in a single carry. That is this man right here, Kalen Ballage, who had 9 rushes for 110 yards and 1 rushing touchdown, which happened to be that 77-yard touchdown, which was something to behold. He also established 1 reception for 9 yards. Right there, giving his interview after that 77-yard touchdown run, he was feeling it, and he looked like he was having a grand old time out there. Don't let those short amount of established yards fool you on those 8 rushes outside of it. But he actually was a big contributing factor in establishing the flow of this Arlington Renegades team. The UFL is on notice with this team right here as one of the top 3 teams. It's going to be in the discussion towards the end of this season. And my pick this week, as a result, is Kalen Ballage.
Well, he did a great job this week, no question. Oh, sorry about that. No question, he did a great job this week, and good choice. Of course, being a lineman, I'm particular about running backs getting their just due, because I think that's where the game is won or lost, in the trenches. So, yes, congratulations to you, Kalen. You definitely earned it for this week. Now, what caught my eye was basically seeing the defenders go absolutely ballistic on defense. And one of them really caught my eye, and that would be Anthony Hines III, with 6 solo tackles, because I think he had 11 on the day, 11 tackles, period. 6 solo tackles and 2 sacks on the day. The reason being, when you can have your linebacker basically big up what is in front of him and clean up what's in front of him and still get the sacks and still get tackles for losses and still get that many tackles and that many on his own, it frees up the others on defense, and it causes nightmares and headaches for those who have to block linebackers like him, which would be tight ends, fullbacks, and running backs. And if an offensive lineman gets a chance to chip, well, it can cause nightmares for them too. But the defenders defensively, they've really stood out this week. And one, Mr. Anthony Hines III, you did your thing, sir. Take your bow. You were one of the greatest players in the UFL for week 1 of the 2025 season. And I think that concludes. But wait, we're not done. Welcome to the Gridiron Scoop, where we touch on things in the news that is about football. And we're going to touch on a couple of UFL notes. One that took place earlier this month, and it still might be an issue. The UFL clarified to its players about a couple of weeks ago that they would be disciplined, but not released, if they decide or think of trying to, or maybe even decide to boycott the league's media days and media days during the week as well. This was done by the executive vice president of football operations, Daryl Johnston. Now, early in the month, 3 players told ESPN that they discussed a boycott to protest a lack of progress toward a new collective bargaining agreement. Now, the players who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that all 8 of the UFL's head coaches told their teams that the league was aware of these discussions and they were prepared to release anyone who followed through. Now, of course, the threat rankled some players who considered that to be an unfair labor practice. Now, my question to you about that, sir, since now we are in the throes of April, at least should be coming close to April, about the collective bargaining agreement, is this trouble on the horizon for the UFL, or is this labor dispute a bump in the road?
I think if we had like a labor stoppage, that we would be more concerned about it for the future. But the fact that we actually have them playing right now, the fact that they're out there and we got the results of what we did, and it wasn't like lackluster play throughout the league. We had guys playing hard out there. All right, so we didn't have people that were just playing lackluster and not really giving an expletive about it. So I would have to say I don't think that it's trouble for the 2025 season. We're going to get a completed 2025 season, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond, that's a good question for this off season. Once this comes to a wrap, and we're looking for other things to talk about in the scoop at that point. But here and now, I would say it's definitely something you should be concerned about, and definitely keep on the back burner, but not too far on the back burner, because at some point in the near future, you're going to have to come up with something big to settle it. But the viewership has to improve. There's other things. It's kind of like the UFL, even though ironically you got ownership that has ties to being part of the board of WWE, which is the major leagues of professional wrestling.
Right.
You are the AEW of professional football. Like, that's literally what you are. What's keeping you afloat is the sponsorships with the U.S. Army and others that are help funding your league, because it's the money and the revenue coming in from Fox, even though it's still a big deal because it's a huge network to showcase football, and you have big time announcers like Kurt Menefee on there that are helping, giving you a good voice for the UFL.
Right.
And you've had some contributing help from others within the NFL partnerships. I mean, you look at what Tom Brady did last year, handing out the first ever UFL championship trophy.
Right.
So, for what everything has been and taken place over the course of the past few years throughout this league of the XFL and then the USFL and the merger, and what we have now, of course, there's going to be bumps in the road. We had discussions like this. Well, not us, because we weren't even alive yet when this happened, but we look back when the AFL was around and those type of leagues, when they were having rival leagues and the territories, kind of like professional wrestling. It's all parallels to each other.
Yeah.
So, looking at it for what it is, I would say, you definitely need to be concerned, but I think it's just a bump in the road in the long scheme of things, because when you have the type of leadership that you have now at the helm of it, to overcome what you've overcame, the fact that you had the pandemic, and even though it was a new ownership group came in and got this league, to still be able to come back from that and still have 2 semi-successful years with the one league, merge with another one, and you're now back for yet another. I think that speaks volumes in itself. And if it wasn't successful enough, we wouldn't have even had a week 1. So if we would have got to the point to where we had a show last week, and we're talking about a potential fact that there's a strike and we're not even going to have a set of week 1 games, then I think that we would have a lot of trouble ahead. But considering we're here talking week 1 coverage and predicting a week 2 here shortly, I think we're good to go for the long scheme of it.
Well said, sir. Well said. And I agree with you. I think bump in the road, but I don't think it's too much of concern so far. And you definitely laid out the problematic areas that ownership will be telling players when they do have these collective bargaining agreements meetings, because those are very good points you raised. Very good points you raised. Now, we were talking collective bargaining agreement. Last week, UFL players hadn't ruled out a strike as they approached the start of the season, as we now had 1 week already happen, without a labor contract. Now, Panthers safety, and we did talk about him early in the show, Kai Nakua, he said the following about, there's not a labor contract that's on the table. Quote, all options are on the table. We need to talk as players, all of us as a union. We need to sit down and we need to have that talk. But we meet a couple of times a week. And I know guys are getting ready for the first game of the season, so we'll find a time that everyone has the time to meet. Close quote. Now, my question to you about that. Now, we did talk about, well, is a labor dispute something that should be troubling? Will this actually be a problem for the UFL as we go week to week in not having a labor contract with the players?
They do need to get this wrapped up sooner than later. I don't think the week to week thing I am concerned about. I think you kind of need to put something in place for the season, at least a short term band-aid to get through the next 2-3 months, because you got about 3 months in total overall when you look at the playoffs. Bye week, you get a bye week, you get the playoffs, which is only a couple weeks because it's a small league right now. But overall, as the season goes along, if you're going week to week, it puts it's mental strain. It's like it's unnecessary. Mental strain is going to be in the back of the minds of others. It's going to be in constant discussion. And whether it's the constant discussion within the same group of people all the time, it's still going to be rumblings in the dark that you're going to have to see the media talking about it, whatever the case may be. The lucky thing for the UFL, though, is, unlike us, there's not a whole lot of. It's not like ESPN's heavily covering it.
Right.
Fox is heavily covering it. The big time networks. Okay, That's what helped us out with a decent amount of views, for starting that up the other day, because there's not a whole lot of eyes, on it for the most part. I wouldn't say a whole lot of eyes, but I would say enough of people at least giving an expletive about it to showcase it in the right light outside of the main ones broadcasting it on like Fox or when ESPN has like a game or so. But overall, man, I think that as the season goes along, it's going to be a problem if they don't at least put some type of short-term Band-Aid on it. But I think that they can.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they're talking about it and at least not handling it in it's not a disruption to the play. To where like there aren't people like kneeling on the sidelines refusing to play type of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There isn't a concentrated mass disruption, or distraction. So all signs I think are good, but I agree with you. I think the UFL needs to put something in place that's tentative. Say, okay, this is the contract. As soon as the season ends, we will talk about what is necessary. But for now, this will be what's put in place. I think that is what needs to happen sooner rather than later, and I agree with you. I think that's what the UFL ownership needs to do. Get together with the players and say, okay, now this is what we agree upon, and we know that you all, you all exert yourselves, and you all are trying to, it's not just this is what you do, this is what you want to do in getting on in other teams or other places, such as the NFL. You want this to be, for many of them, you want this to be a springboard to something else. And so we do understand that you got to protect yourself, and we are with you in that. I agree with you, the sooner they get to that point, the better. But that sooner has to come soon. I agree on that as well. Now to the NFL and the Baltimore Ravens. They reached a 3-year contract extension with Coach John Harbaugh this past Friday, which maintains continuity for one of the most stable franchises in the NFL. Now, the new deal keeps Harbaugh under contract with the team until the 2028 season. Now, the 62-year-old was entering the final year of his latest contract, which he signed back in March 3 years ago. The Ravens have never let him start a regular season on the final year of his contract since he was hired back in 2008. Now, he is the second longest tenured coach in NFL. The longest tenured, of course, is the Steelers head coach, Mike Tomlin, who he has completed his 18th season this past season. No other coach has been on this current team on the sideline for more than 12, other than the aforementioned Harbaugh and Tomlin. Now, my question to you about that is, we know how successful the regular season has been for the Ravens and how Harbaugh has actually been successful in the regular season. Will the recent Ravens playoff failures come back to bite Harbaugh and the Ravens?
Good, because I mean, it's been a lot of that already repeating itself over the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since their Super Bowl, 2013, was it 2013, 2012?
Yeah. The 2012 season, the Super Bowl was in 2013. Yeah.
Like, it's been the cycle since then. So,
wow.
You look at that contract.
Wow.
It all stemmed from the Joe Flacco contract. It, like, crippled this team, right? And then
good point.
You get Lamar Jackson, which was a breath of fresh air, and you had him on the rookie deal for a little bit, and you were able to build something as a result. Like, that was your Band-Aid, but you still haven't fully recovered from that. This has been a decade of, reparations paid. Well, I wouldn't say that's probably a misquote, but it's like dividends paid in a negative way for that contract to Joe Flacco. I mean, look at it. So now you've already paid Lamar again. You've got Derrick Henry in there, which is another Band-Aid to your running game that you had with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback running the ball, but you don't need that. You need an actual running back, so you get the Band-Aid. However, we're at a point again where it's make or break for the Ravens, and they really needed to get to the Super Bowl last year. It would have been one thing if they would have lost, but they really needed to get to the Super Bowl last year with what they had. And based on how they started last year, you needed to win that game, but you didn't win the game. You lost it. And looking at the playoff failures then, and looking at it is no matter what anybody says, like out of the AFC this year, based on what we have heard from the Baltimore Ravens fan base, based on what we have heard from other critics, the Ravens not only need to go to the Super Bowl this year, but they need to win it. Like, there is no go there and it's okay if you lose, because that's what I would have given. I would have said that was okay if you did that last year, because between the Lions and then, of course, with what Philly did in last year's offseason, like, I would have given you that. Like, it was the NFC that was winning this last year's Super Bowl.
More than likely, yeah.
That I was not going to argue that, and we were talking about that. My favorite all year was the Lions, and I discussed it for several weeks. Same. Even until, like, when they faced the Commanders. Like, I still had them beating the Commanders, but it didn't work that way. The NFC team was winning the Super Bowl. And here, we talk about the AFC, which has been crippled by the Kansas City Chiefs for several years. When it comes to this team right here, the Ravens, like, yeah, of course, when you look at the playoff failures of that team as a whole, and looking at how long Harbaugh has been there as the head coach, looking at a decade and a half now of Harbaugh at the helm of commanding this team. Yeah. So if you are the Ravens and you're the running that front office, he's this seat's burning. Like, it's hotter now, I feel like, than it's ever been, because of what you have on that team. On both sides of the ball, on offense and defense. Of course, you would love to have a prime, like for the last few years of his career, Ray Lewis again, like you did to start your tenure there as the head coach for the Ravens. But it's already been like getting that Super Bowl that quick, or I wouldn't say that quick, but It all stems back from that contract to Joe Flacco, in my opinion. That has been the thorn in the side to this Ravens team, no matter which way you want to dice it up. And that failure and the playoff failures, I feel like, stemmed from that, because from the amount of money you were investing to him, you could have had so much more around you and consistently have built from that. And who knows what you would have now, is you could be the Kansas City Chiefs of the AFC and have 2 or 3 Super Bowls at this point, beyond that one Super Bowl you had back then. So if you're the Ravens, you're thinking about all that right now, or you should be, because those playoff failures that you're asking about have been biting you. They have been already coming back to bite you, in my opinion. And that's why that seed, in my opinion, is hotter now than ever, because of what you have: your quarterback, your running back, your receiving. You've had Mark Andrews, which, granted, he catches that pass, he catches that ball, and we're having a totally different conversation right now, Cole Johnson.
Yeah.
Andrews catches that ball last year in that playoff game, and we could be talking something different today here in March, but we're not. So, unfortunately, it stems to one play in a game for many games that are along the way of this past decade's worth of story for this Baltimore Ravens team, and Harbaugh as the head coach. The failures have already been biting them. It is now or never for the Baltimore Ravens.
And here's the problem with not what you said. Here's the problem with what I'm seeing with the Ravens. And I agree with you. I think they did suffer from having the quarterback having the run of his life in that playoff stretch in 2012, January and February 2013. With Flacco, normally when you have a QB that has that type of success, and he was having success beforehand in the playoffs, the chances are the brass is going to say, all right, let's throw the Brinks truck in his direction. I mean, he's proved himself. He's gotten us into the playoffs, gotten us deep in the playoffs time and again. Now he got us the ring. Okay, and he's a Super Bowl MVP to boot. Okay, yeah. All right, here's your king's ransom. I agree with you. I think that has handicapped them. It definitely has handicapped the defense, because they seem to have lost their identity on that side of the ball too, because as you said, Sick, that Super Bowl was Larry Lewis's last game. Let's say that Terrell Suggs was the law of diminishing returns. Awesome player, but he definitely didn't pan out to be like the next Ray Lewis. And I know Suggs was not a middle linebacker; he was a pass rusher, but still, he was supposed to be their big defensive guy after Lewis was gone. Didn't happen. Ed Reed probably was supposed to help along with that, but the tread was getting worn on that tire. So you had those problems, and then you start to see them mix and match defensively because, of course, of that contract you said with Flacco. Then Flacco leaves, and the team basically is sort of in the tailspin route, and then they luck out and they get Lamar Jackson, and here they are, and they seem to have hit a ceiling. And the problem, I think, with that is you're now starting to have the, as they say, the failures of the father now being visited on the son. The failures of Harbaugh starting to now become the stench of one Lamar Jackson. Fair or unfair, and that's the unfortunate part of it all. And yes, last year, if the Ravens advanced to the Super Bowl, it would have been a step further than they had the year before, since they went to the AFC Championship game. But they took a step back because they lost in the round before they got to the championship round. So, yeah, I think even though the extension was given to Harbaugh, I think the seat is a little, at coldest, that seat is very warm. At coldest, that seat is very warm. I think that seat is a little on the hot side too. Dante, what's up, my man? I know you're still celebrating your Eagles winning the championship. He says, look, I'm 50-50 on the Ravens. They're playing great football, coming up short in a great game, but there's no guarantee in the NFL. He says that the AFC is very competitive, which it is. He says, is it worth blowing the Ravens up? They have young talent.
I wouldn't blow them up, but I think that at some point with what you have, you got to consider maybe a change in leadership if things don't get better as far as the production. You should be in the Super Bowl at this point.
I think, yeah, it's going to have to be one or two things, and Drew hit the nail on the head. It's one or two things. Either, to me, I think you still have to tinker with the defense a little more. I mean, you may have a couple of pieces in Marlon Humphreys and Kyle Hamilton, but besides those two, what piece would you want to keep long term defensively for the Ravens? I think you have to do that. I personally think you may have to retool an offensive line too. It's either you're gonna have to do those things, and you got to actually go further than you have gotten and you've gone these past 12 years, or it's going to have to be not just a change of offensive coordinator like from Greg Roman to Brett Monken, but it's going to have to be John Harbaugh has to go. And I'm not rooting for him to go. I like the guy. It's just that I think that team has got, especially Lamar Jackson, I think they've gotten to the point where the rah-rah speeches is getting a little bit hollow. They're not landing the way they did, say, I don't know, 2011. And it's like, okay, same old thing, different year. I think we're getting to that point with him. And I lean more toward you may need a regime change more than you need to tweak and tinker with the roster. You're going to tweak the roster and tinker with it anyway. But yeah, I think we're coming close to the end of the road for John Harbaugh being the guy who leads the Ravens. Yeah.
I don't want to say that because I like what he's done and I like him, but at the same time, it's like at this point, it's part of the discussion. I don't, and it's really depends on how this upcoming season goes. Now, based on what happened last year, I don't. That's why he's still there. You don't condemn him for that because, like I said, Andrews catches that ball. We could be having a totally different conversation today. All right. And then you get to the Super Bowl, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with losing.
Yeah,
like if you go there and you lose to the NFC team of whoever it was, the Lions or the Eagles last year, right?
You lost to the better team, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the Commanders could have been more of a discussion of the Lions because based on, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
But as of what we were talking about all year long. But the Eagles did their job, and regardless of who was facing them on the AFC side, the Eagles were winning that game. It was guaranteed, Yeah. But here and now, looking at this, there's definitely a really great question, but it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for the Ravens. But it's make or break now, 2025 for the Ravens.
I agree. And Dante, yes, we hear you, bro, and I'm with you on that. Not all coaches look the same, no question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we agree with you on that for sure. Now, to Stefon Diggs, the former free agent and former, as of late, Texans wide receiver. Now he has a new home. And the veteran wide receiver says he took one free agent visit, and it was to Foxborough, before officially signing his 3-year contract with the team this past Friday. Now, with being a member of the Patriots, he had this to say, quote, I was considering a couple of other places, but that's all in the past now. Close quote. Well, I would say it would be all in the past. You get slid $69 million. I'm sorry, let me get off my soapbox. The $69 million contract, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter, which is the range the wide receiver said he was expecting in terms of average per season, in part because he's coming off an ACL tear in his right knee that was sustained back in last October in Houston. Now, he also had this to say about his contract. Quote, I kind of figured it was going to be around that area, considering I'm coming off the injury, but also the fact that I'm one of the only receivers that had 6 1,000-yard seasons consecutively, of course, before last year. The production, it's always been there. I can move the chains. I can do the intermediate. I can go deep. I did all that throughout my career. My resume probably speaks for itself, but it was more so the injury that would deter or make the money what it is. I look at it definitely as an opportunity. What could have been, could have been. At this point, I am where I am, and I'm thankful. Close quote. Now, my question to you about that is Stefon Diggs and the signing for the Patriots. Is this a step in the right direction for them? Or do you think they're, how can I say this? They see a big name, they grab onto the big name, and it's going to backfire.
If he remains healthy, I feel like this will be a big move because this is their wide receiver one they've needed for quite some time. They've needed a real go-to guy over there in New England as a receiver, and they haven't had one that they can rely on. And this team has made some pretty solid moves this offseason. They've like reestablished their identity and get some real help over there for Drake May, and that's what they're doing with bringing in Stefon Diggs. You know, the Houston's loaded, right? Like for long term, I don't blame Stefon Diggs for going there, but you and I talked about this, you know, just last week. You know, you were talking about the fact that Stefon Diggs and looking around, you know, it's pretty concerning, which is why a big part of that trade and discussion had to have been like why they got that 2025 draft pick, because this was more likely a good chance to happen if things didn't go the way that they wanted to. Like, say Houston gets to the AFC Championship game last year, there's a good chance I think Stefon Diggs signs a 1 or 2 year deal this offseason and stays in Houston.
It stays there.
Because you have a chance to win. It's like if Buffalo would have done the same, like maybe he would have been quiet, like if he would have gone to the AFC Championship, gone to the Super Bowl, whatever, then they could have made something that happened there. But when it comes to stars and with wide receivers and how they've all been kind of labeled as divas. All right. Looking at it for what it is, like I don't blame him for going to another team. I was surprised it was to the Patriots when it first happened initially, but when you look at the scope of what they've done this offseason as a whole, you're bringing in Vrabel. You know, you've already changed the mentality and the culture of, you know, everything with bringing in him to run that team. It started with him, and then of course the front office. You know, they've been making the right moves because it looks like they're communicating with the head coach and what he really wants to establish as that team. So Stefon Diggs going to the Patriots is definitely a step in the right direction for him also because of what is going to be established around him. You know, you've got a culture, a true person leading the charge who is big on that, and that being Vrabel, who's a proven leader not only on the field as a player, but now as a head coach. Who the Tennessee Titans, we said it when he was let go before. You and I did because we had this show when he was let go. We said it was stupid of them to let him go because he's very young and you're crippling your franchise by not building the team not only around a star player. You got to have like your star quarterback or, you know, one piece, whether it's your quarterback or your defense or quarterback or your offense. But you got to have the head coach that can speak the language to them to make them do what they got to do on the field each and every play. And that's somebody that you get out of Mike Vrabel leading the Patriots. And if you're Stefon Diggs at this point in your career, you have been in the league for a decade and you haven't won a Super Bowl yet, or at least sniffed it yet.
And you've been one, right?
Yeah, you haven't. You don't even know what it feels like to participate in media week as the person sitting on the stage. Like Jameis, of course, can sit there and tell you about what it's like to be on the other side with the media. Right. And he could tell us about, I mean, that's more than what you and I have done. That's something that we would like to do at some point one day. But, but, you know, when it comes to that, you know, that wasn't a dig at Jameis or Stefon Diggs, but is it going to happen this year? No. But within the length of that contract, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But it's still, they got a lot more moves to make. It's very similar to what I said last year about the Commanders, where what the moves they were making were exciting. I still felt like they were going to have a winning record, like maybe a win or two over 500. Didn't expect them to go 12-5 and win two games in the playoffs and go to the NFC Championship. No, I did not expect that. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Patriots in the playoffs this year and win a wild card game, lose the division round. But I wouldn't be surprised if regardless of what I just said with that, at least make it to the playoffs this year as the 7th seed. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. The offseason moves that the Patriots have made, yeah, it is signaling a new day and a new dawn for them. And of course, it started, like you said, with the acquisition of a really good head coach in Mike Vrabel, who he's the quintessential definition of a player's coach. Plus, he's played in the league and won rings in the league. So you have that. What is up, Ryan McCarthy? It is good to see you, sir. He says, "Good day, Treble Chiefs. Throw them ones up." Oh, I'm sorry. Congratulations, Stefon Diggs, signing a 3-year deal and getting locked up and getting locked up by Sauce Gardner twice a year. Oh Lord. And for those who don't know, one Mr. McCarthy, he's a huge Jets fan. So of course, yeah, anything that's deal with the Patriots. Put it this way: I have a wonderful brother in Lefe. Anything that is mentioned to Boston, well, Mr. McCarthy, when it comes to Patriots, thinks very similarly, but I can't say that on FCC airwaves. Dante says, "Look, oh yeah. In other words, with Stefon Diggs signing, the Patriots are paying for past results." Well, I mean, come on. I mean, the team was circling the drain the last 2 years. I mean, what do you expect?
You got to admit that it's an upgrade though from what they've had. I like the stuff I'm saying is not wrong. I didn't say he was going to be an All Pro and make it to the Pro Bowl and win, but I'm not saying that they're going to make it to the Super Bowl with Stefon Diggs, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
It is, and to your point, it's not enough. I mean, Diggs and Mac Hollins. No, of course it's not enough. I mean, you're dealing with a team that, I mean, they were battling. I'm sorry, Ryan. They were battling with the Jets for last place in AFC East. They didn't have to battle too hard because the Patriots were owning it. But so when you have that as as an option, anything is an upgrade. And yes, Mac Hollins was the number 1 wide receiver last year. That was not saying much. And it was unfortunate because you had a rookie quarterback in Drake May who looks like he has the goods. That pretty much was his only reliable weapon of choice. So now he has an upgrade. Now, does that mean that they stop with the upgrades? No. I mean, they could probably find other pieces. We'll see. You know, we'll see. He says, "Look, Diggs takes too many plays off, and I don't like it. They're better trading seeing whether Washer and Pittsburgh. Come on, man. Look, I get that, but we're talking about a team, the Patriots. The best wide receiver they have had since Diggs is probably what, Randy Moss, and that is almost 20 years ago. So, I mean, you're dealing with a team that they went. I mean, they rather go with a Troy Brown for a number 1 wide receiver. Not saying that's a bad thing. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. I mean, they didn't have stalwart wide receivers. They didn't have that WR1 because that wasn't their style. And so now you have an upgrade, one that I don't think they've had in talent in a long time. So, yeah. Now, do I now as it, I'm sure I could speak for Drew in this case. We're saying that Stefon Diggs is going to lead the Patriots to the Super Bowl? Heck no. Not in 2025. They need a whole lot more than that. But like I said, we'll see. But I think they'll be better this year as opposed to last and the year before because they were horrible. Now, for one new free agent signing to another, the Giants. I'm sorry, Mr. McCarthy. We're not talking about the Jets. The Giants reached an agreement with Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson. It was a 1-year deal worth up to $21 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. Now, the 10-time Pro Bowler had been in discussions with the Giants, the Browns, and the Steelers, but he opted for New York, where, of course, on the same field where he will have his home games, he won his only Super Bowl ring as a member of the Seahawks. Now, Wilson is returning as the Giants' projected starting quarterback, and he indicated that Tuesday night he's excited to be back, saying, quote, been here before, can't wait to do it again, hashtag MetLife at Giants, close quote. Now, my question to you is, does this mean the Giants, because they have signed Jameis Winston the week before, they've now signed Russell Wilson, does this mean that the Giants won't go after Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders come the NFL draft in a few weeks?
There was a little bit of a delay there. My apologies. But yes, when it comes to these two players right here, the Giants, I don't know, man. Like, they got a lot of quarterbacks over there now. You got Russell Wilson, you got Jameis, you got Cutlets, you got the mailman coming in for a tryout. You got a lot of people over there. They're trying to sling the rock over there in New York. However, you look at the amount of people that they've had to work with over the past few years, minus Danny Dimes, and we talked about earlier with contracts that crippled teams, Cole Johnson, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, he's getting paid by another team that looks like he may be the possible starting quarterback in week 1, that being Danny Dimes. But we'll talk about that with that other team at another time with the Colts.
Yes,
but right here and now, we'll talk about the Giants. When it comes to free agent Russell Wilson agreeing to the deal with the Giants, when it comes to these two quarterbacks that are right there at the picking, you have the number 3 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
But Cam Ward might not even be there by the time you have your pick at number 3.
Won't be. Yeah, more likely.
Or something that hasn't really been highly talked about, with having the amount of quarterbacks you have now, what if you trade out of the 3 and you go down and you acquire a decent pick for next year too, but you still stay in the first round, still possibly stay within the top 10 or top 12 of your picks, and maybe not go quarterback, but you still get a piece that you feel is very vital to your offense or defense that you really want to get, but you tool up on a good pick or two for the next year or two, and really try to rebuild what you have expletive up over there in New York, because you really have become the New York Jets, sorry, McCoffey, of the of the National Football League. Like, looking at the American Football Conference, looking at the National Football Conference in comparison, you get the Jets in the one league and the Giants in the other. They are literally the New York teams, and they are playing like they are of the same DNA. And they play in the same stadium. So the DNA is rubbing on all over each other, and they are rubbing off on each other, literally, is how it's been going between these two teams. I'm sorry, McCoffey, but I mean, when you got like a teenager running your team, it is what it is. You get maybe he's running both teams for all we know. Maybe they got some inside deal. My kid's going to play Madden, tell you how to do your job. That's what's happening over here for the New York teams. We're going to sit up in our penthouse. It's going to be all Junior and his pals. All right?
All right.
You're going to have a little tournament. There's going to be brackets. One kid's going to represent one team, and my other kid that I don't like very much is going to represent the Giants.
I don't like
And they're going to play with each other and everybody else. They're going to have a tournament. Whoever wins certain games, and we're going to do trades, and we're going to turn the salary cap off. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bend the rules. We're going to make it to where you don't even have a salary cap. This is going to be an all-star. And that way, when we make certain plays in these games, we're going to say we could pick this guy up for a 4th-round pick or not. That's the beauty of playing the game of Madden. And that's the beauty of having the younger generation, the Gen Zers, whoever you want, make your choices for your locker room. And it could be happening for both teams. Could be happening. I'm just kidding. I went on the rant just to have fun for a minute. But we know it's happening for one organization. It's not happening for the Giants, okay? They are actually, I would have to say the Giants, Wazel Hefe's got to be excited. You know, they're not making horrible decisions. But at the same time, even if you take Sanders still, or Cam Ward, whoever is available and whoever you take at that pick, if you decide to stay in there, it's not bad because you actually have strong depth, in my opinion, at this point in comparison to what you've had over the last 5-6 years since.
That's true.
And even longer than that, because the last few years of Eli Manning, he was consistently going down. So,
Right.
As far as consistent, and I mean, he was always a turnover machine, but as far as he was trending downward those last few years. So I would say it's the first time you've had consistent depth at the quarterback position in a decade, and that's just in all seriousness. So, it could potentially mean that Ward or Sanders does not get chosen by the Giants. It doesn't mean that they're not going to go 3 overall. But I just feel like at this point, if you don't take one of those two, it's because you traded out of the spot. Because it's not like neither one of those two don't deserve to be selected within the top 3. So, whichever way you dice it up, if the Giants are not taking either one of those two, they are trading out of it because you're going to be wasting a pick and you're going to be wasting compensation. I wouldn't say wasting a pick, but you're going to be wasting compensation to where you could have something beyond this pick and things to invest with over the course of the next few years, or well, at least next year or two. Out of trading a top 3 pick is very valuable in a draft, and you don't always select somebody who is worthy of the value of the top 3 pick. So if you can trade and get the compensation necessary because you feel like you might get something better with that type of pick in next year's draft, because the team you're usually going to probably trade with is probably not going to be all that great. However, it's a gamble because, say, if you do trade with a decent team, they trade you their one for the next year or two, and they ended up winning these games. They become like the Commanders, who have like the 29th overall pick this year, because of their talents from this past year.
Right.
Like, it's a gamble because in one year you go from being in the top 10 of the draft to literally the very top of the draft on the other end, like on the bottom end of the top of the, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
for what it is, this deal, it could go either way because, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if everything I just said actually happens, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they still stay with the 3 and they still get Sanders, because you have quarterbacks like Jameis, who is not proven in the amount of time that he has been a quarterback in this league. It's not somebody that you can bank on. Look at what happened with the Saints. That was their fallback plan when Breeze was going to retire. Didn't work, okay?
Right.
Russell Wilson did okay. Like, it's a hard okay. Like, it's a okay enough to garner another opportunity to start in the league. And unfortunately, because of the drama with Captain Ayahuasca, it just didn't work out to where he couldn't hold on, because him signing with the Steelers is good or bad, because you don't want to be a backup to Aaron Rodgers or get cut or something.
Right.
But at the same time, they might have told him, like, we're not going to sign you until we are sure what he's doing. And he didn't want to sit around and wait and let all the opportunities dry up. So this was the best option. So you look at it for this. You got Russell Wilson signing. You got Jameis, Captain Crableg, okay? And then you've got Tommy Cutlets. You guys know why he's Captain Crableg. Don't you let that slip through the cracks, all right? You know why he's Captain Crableg over there with old Jameis, okay? James with the IS. All right, Jameis. Now, back to story. Jameis, Crableg. Then you've got, you've got Russell Wilson, Benedictine, Russell Wilson, and then you have Tommy Cutlets. All right? Who else do you have? This is the prime opportunity. You still take Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders still at 3. So even though I said all that other stuff to dance around to, I feel like you still have a really good shot. I wouldn't be surprised if still on draft day you're still taking Shadur Sanders. He's not pressured to start in year 1. You don't have somebody like Alex Smith tutoring Mahomes like you did in his rookie year, but you at least have something. And you have 3 quarterbacks ahead of him to where no matter if there's a carousel of injuries, he's not going to be pressured to start in week 4. Okay. So I don't dislike any of the options that they have, but it also, like, reassures whoever gets drafted to the quarterback position that they're not going to have to be thrusted into the fire right away, because it is going to be a fire somewhat, because they still have a lot of moves to make within this organization if they want to get relevant again.
Oh, yeah. The quarterback is just one of the areas they need to actually think about upgrading. Dante says, look, the Giants will be dangerous. They won't draft a black quarterback, but I like Russell. I thought he was the only one to show up in the playoffs. I'm not scared. What do you think, Drew? I think is what he was saying. And of course, I think you pretty much nailed it.
But at the same time, I kind of disagree. I think that that cycle's going to be broken this year. The Giants are going to draft a black quarterback this year. They have, like, if you don't, it really just screams racism. It really just look. Come on, man. Like, at this point, like, you have Russell Wilson and you have Jameis, who are both in their 30s and not any close to the lower side of 30. Okay,
all right.
And you have Tommy Cutlets. All right. You still have. And you have the janitor. You have those 4 options right now. It doesn't hurt to bring the kid in. You have a year to learn the system. You break it down. DX, all right? WWF time, all right? Break it down. But you have that time to get him right to where year 2, like Mahomes did when he came in. You're not going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm just sorry. Don't get too excited for 2026. But at least you have somebody who is comfortable enough with the playbook to where you could go 9-8. I would be confident with saying that. If you make the moves that you make this offseason and next offseason that are good enough to upgrade this team, and anybody can do it. It's just, do you have the strings to pull within your job there as, running the front office of a team to actually do it? And I don't know if they do at this current stage, because looking at what they did with the last draft, when his own kid is telling him about Jaden Daniels, he didn't even have the pick, but you still had the option to at least maybe trade up for it. I think that the Commanders weren't going to trade out of that pick, and they saw something special in the kid too, which is why they drafted him. But to even see the kid tell his dad, like, you if you like your job, you need to get Jaden Daniels, all right? Well, it's not even that serious. I wouldn't say that this pick is detrimental, because neither one of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is of the talent of Jaden Daniels. But at the same time, you were in a position to where you kind of have to take them, because if you trade out and you make moves for the future because you think something might be better next year, you can do that. But you also take the gamble of not getting a top 5 pick. So at this point, because of the options that you have between cutlets and crab legs and very famous wife, you really need to draft either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
Well, Dante continues on and says, I like the fact of having multiple quarterbacks for trade bait, but the 1-year deal for Russell makes no sense. Have him for a 2-year deal and then trade this year or next. Already messing up. Well,
they don't want to pay him. I don't blame them.
It's about the money. I don't think they want to pay him, and they signed Winston to a 2-year deal. So they did sign a QB for 2 years. It just wasn't going to be Wilson, because their price tag is a little too thick and too pricey. Ryan says, bold prediction: the Giants try to trade up for Cam Ward. It's Joe Schoen's big swing to attempt to keep his job. Joe Schoen, the GM of the Giants, and your claim of the Giants and the Jets basically having their residue rub off on each other. He says, no, the Jets deserve it, because Woody Johnson is a clown of an owner. Ouch. Oh, and he says, tip of the cap to you, sir, for the alternative solo job for the UFL on Saturday. He said you did a great job. As long as he could have tuned in, we loved what he saw.
I appreciate it. It was definitely fun. Hopefully I can get you on there and Cole and many others, and we could do more of those games, because it was fun. It was fun. I want to hopefully do it and schedule a game that's going to be pretty, what do you say, interesting. I didn't think it was going to be that. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I figured the Renegades were going to be, I figured it was going to be good. The problem is we were where they were last year. I thought it was going to be competitive, but it was definitely not.
Oh, well. Well, we'll touch more on that a little later. But that concludes the Gridiron Scoop. For the 2-minute drill, yes, we do have games to preview. The UFL season is now underway. We are now in week 2 of the preview, I should say, of the UFL season. We will begin with the Friday game. The Stallions, who are on 1, they are traveling to Detroit to play the Panthers. They are 1-0. Fox will have this kick, 8 p.m. All times are Eastern. The Stallions last year are favored in this game. The road favored by 1.5. Your thoughts on this game and who you see winning it?
Well, based on what the Stallions did in this last game against the Defenders, I don't have high hopes for them, and especially their running game. And their offensive line is definitely depleted in comparison to what they had last year. In the previous 2 years before that, like they were a well-oiled machine, and I'm very concerned with what I saw. And the Michigan Panthers retooled over the offseason, and then you saw what the Nakua brothers did, and they had some pretty good moments last year. I think the Panthers win this one at home. They're going to be 2-0 at the end of this, and it's going to be a good game this Friday night. But and I don't think it's going to be a blowout, just like we didn't have a blowout when the Defenders played the Stallions. It's going to be respectable. It's not going to be like 26-12, which, I mean, that still wasn't like, as bad as the other 2 games from Friday and Saturday. But I think this game with the Panthers being at home, Detroit is going to get a nice, as you say it. Detroit, though, is going to get a nice victory at home.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. I think the Panthers will take it. Yes, Detroit's going to be happy with the Panthers coming home and getting that dub. I think basically the defense is going to be what's going to stand out for the Panthers. I believe that the way the Stallions are playing, I think I think that that Bryce Perkins will be on even keel. He'll make the right decisions. He won't turn the ball over. And I think that would have to be the key for the Stallions to do something. But unfortunately, I don't think they will get the key turnover that they need. And I think the Panthers defense will be the difference. And I agree. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
Plus, the Panthers are the only team in the USFL conference that got a win from this past weekend. So, I mean, it doesn't really mean but so much, but at the same time, you look at the momentum is on their side. And the way they played, based on what the momentum on the side of the Stallions, I'm not confident in them. Until they prove me wrong, I'm not confident in them.
I hear you. Ron? I'm with you on that, sir.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, the Saturday game, another 8 p.m. kickoff. ABC will be carrying this one. The DC Defenders at home again. They are 1-0. They will be hosting the Memphis Showboats. And you will notice a theme with all of these games for some reason. DC, they are a touchdown and 2-point conversion favorites in this one. Your thoughts on this one and who you see winning it?
Memphis Showboats still have a long way to go in as far as becoming a successful franchise in the UFL. If the quarterback play improves to where they're not turning the ball over, if Troy Williams can just keep it under wraps over there and not turn the ball over like he has, I feel like they have a decent chance of winning some games this year in this league. The DC Defenders, though, if the defense plays the way that they did this past week, when we talked about the 8 sacks, that was absolutely wild for that to happen. And it's very possible that we could see that stat line again when you're facing a team like the Memphis Showboats who had their struggles the way they did, and how Williams proved that if he was under pressure, he was going to make mistakes. And that's the pressure that the defense brought from the Defenders. That's what made the mistakes for the Stallions in this past week. So I have a good feeling that it's going to happen yet again. And my pick this Saturday is going to be that team yet again. I'm going with the Defenders at home.
I am too. Almost at them thinking it's going to be how many sacks are they going to get this weekend, as opposed to last. The showboats just looked uneven, and yes, the defenders offensively looked uneven too. But you get an effort from the defense that you saw against the Stallions, against a team that I don't think is as talented as the Stallions. Yeah, I see them rolling to 2-0, starting off very strong at home with 2 home wins to begin the season. I think that's what's going to happen.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, we go to the first Sunday kickoff. Noon is the tick kickoff. ESPN will carry the game. The Arlington Renegades, who are 1-0, they are hosting their rivals from the South, the Houston Roughnecks, who are 0-1. Arlington is favored, the biggest favorite of the week, 8.5. Who do you have in this one, and why?
This game, I feel like we're going to come back next week and say, and why else wouldn't you? Because of how bad the Houston Roughnecks have been in their tenure of the UFL and how bad the Houston franchise itself was before that. I mean, looking at this team, it's going to be the Battle of Texas, but there's not going to be much of a battle because Arlington, you look at how bad they laid the smackdown this past week, they are going to do it once again. They're going to be 2-0 as a result of this early afternoon game on Sunday.
I agree. Yeah, the only thing that's pretty on the Roughnecks is the jerseys. Otherwise, yes, they're taking this big fat.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now, this second Sunday game, the kickoff time is 6:30 p.m., not a.m. And the greatest UFL, XFL, even USFL home field will be seen once again as the Seattle Battlehawks have their first game in St. Louis. They host the San Antonio Brahmas, who are 1-1. St. Louis is favored by 7. And who do you have in this one, sir?
Very similar to, the last couple of games we talked about, especially when you look at, the Stallions and the Showboats and the Roughnecks. I mean, until these teams prove me wrong, I'm not going to pick them to win a game at this point. I mean, it just at some point you have to, but right now against the teams that they're playing, from what they showed, no, I just can't. And it's another type of pick here. I can't pick against the Battlehawks. Like the Battlehawks, the way they've been in past years, the way that they have still evolved from what they were. They made a big time change at quarterback, which we've seen with other teams like the Brahmas, and it affect them. So, and it's been positive though for the Battlehawks instead of for the Brahmas. So because of that, I see the Brahmas going to 0-2, the Battlehawks improving and going to 2-0. I got a feeling that maybe potentially one of these games that we're talking about could swing against us, and we're going to see a shift somewhere to where we might have been wrong about something with what we've said this week, which happens. But right now, I'm picking the Battlehawks as a result.
Yes, and shout out to the greatest home field in the UFL. I think they will be rewarded with a big-time W. The Battlehawks, that running game to me is what's going to be the difference. I think they will be able to run roughshod over the Brahmas like they did over the Roughnecks. Well, that is it for the 2-minute drill, but that's not it for the show. Oh, yeah. April is right around the corner, but the snow still falls on the ground. Welcome to Snowflake of the Week for episode 78. And for his Snowflake of the Week, Mr. Willingham, it is all yours.
Well, my pick of the week, got to go with an honorable mention and an actual pick.
Oh, Lord.
First of all, I'm going to go with my pick. It's going to be Anthony Brown. He is the one out there who made absolute mockery of his play in this past week. Looking at what he did, 5 of 11 passes out of attempts, 21 passing yards, 2 interceptions, averaging 1.9 yards per pass. 1.9. Come on, guys. 1.9 yards per pass. You are a professional. You can do better than that. 1.9 yards per play. This is how the Houston Roughnecks are led with their starting quarterback. He started the game. And he was 5 of 11 for 21 passing yards and 2 interceptions. I didn't really highlight it enough earlier because I wanted to have this moment. I wanted to save this energy and this drive to put into this just like I did put in this graphic. As the snowflakes fall in the graphic, he doesn't even have a picture of himself with the team to where I had to go back and get his college pictures to put in with the graphic. He is that bad. He is so bad they don't even want to take a picture of him.
Had to find Oregon pictures. That's sad.
As you look at the picture, based on the look on his face too, he is a certified Dumpster Pelican performer. And that's why he gets that as a certified Dumpster Pelican performance of the week, as the snowflake of the week. Oh, wait, he did have 1 rush for 20 yards. Congratulations. Congratulations, Anthony Brown. But you still had a stat line of 12.9 QBR.
Oh, that's brutal.
That burns. It stings. Hurts. But look, it's okay. Because they're going to get a picture of you at some point. Keep your head up. It's going to get better. Yeah. I just had to have a little fun because that was just so bad. But a lot of that really, though, stems from the offensive line and the entirety of the core of this team, which isn't a makeup of much at all. So it is literally just people on a roster fielding a team right now, and he unfortunately has nothing really around him. But at the same time, it's not all them either, because you got to make better decisions than that. You can do better than 12.9% QBR. I at least got to say that. 2 interceptions. Come on now, Anthony Brown. You are my snowflake of the week. My honorable mention. Let's go to basketball. Yo, K. He is my selection for honorable mention because in the world of sports, my argument is the world of sports.
Why?
He lied to PMAC about Stephen A. He lied to him, according to Stephen A. Smith. Regardless,
not according to Stephen A.
Smith. Regardless, somebody is lying here. So if it's proven one day that he didn't lie to PMAC, I take back what I'm saying right now, and I will make a graphic for Stephen A. to go and combat with what I just said. But regardless of all that, if we threw all that out to the side, he still made Josh Giddey look like Steve Nash last Thursday against the Bulls. And you want to sit around and call him Yo K. You can't do that because you made him look like Steve Nash.
Yo K.
It is time to remove the crown.
Lord.
And even if you got to put it in a FedEx box and send it back because you are too upset to give it to him yourself, you need to hand it over to Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you are not.
Okay.
And even the man himself will tell you.
Stop it. Get some help.
And you did.
Oh, Lord.
With Luka. But you need to do a better job and get some help with some PR.
Okay.
I rest my case because the Lakers start with it.
Oh, Lord. A non-football take for Snowflake of the Week. Okay. Oh, let me try to recover. Yeah, now I have visions of Giddey shooting a 3-pointer midcourt in LeBron James's face. Okay. All right, let me focus. This is football, not basketball. But, for me, I decided not to go the route of UFL. I could have, but I was like, nah, I'm not. What was upsetting me was last week we saw the Green Bay Packers show that they had no balls in submitting to the competition committee. We think the tush push should be banned. It's unfair. It's an unfair advantage. And the competition committee said, sure, we'll take that on and we'll put it to a vote. And that is my snowflake of this week. Come on. You got to be kidding me. All right. So I think I heard somewhere Stephen Jones. I know you all don't know him. No, that's Gerald's son, the one that should probably be the GM of the team, but he basically has to settle for co-GM because his father is the other co-GM. Well, he basically was saying, well, you have a rule that in extra points, the defense can't have a linebacker shove a defensive end. Okay, fine, fair enough. Do we see that rule in regular downs? I think not. So, if you can have this play be voted on to not be done, why don't you send a message competition committee, because the vote is going to be put on the table on Tuesday. If you're watching this on Tuesday today, if you're watching it on Monday tomorrow, if you're watching it Wednesday and onward, the vote is already taking place. In the spring meetings that the owners have and the competition committee has, they will put it to vote. You all should send a message to the Packers and say, look, grow a set, stop the play. I mean, it's just that simple. And that is how I feel. And yes, this is directed to the Eagles. I mean, I'm saying my verbiage is directed to them, but this levying of stoppage is directed to the Eagles. No. Now, my team's the Texans. Would I want to see the Eagles execute on them? Of course not. But you know what? I would still say the same thing about that to them as I would the other 30 teams that have to try to stop him. Stop the play. Find a way to stop it. Find a defense that can be devised to stop the play. You found ways to stop the West Coast offense to be the one thing that was burning up defenses when the 49ers was running it. Why don't you find a way to stop the tush push? And not to levy to the competition committee. It's unfair. Let's not do that. We shouldn't have a running back or a tight end or an offensive lineman push a quarterback. We shouldn't do that. Shut up. This is a man sport. Find a man way to stop the team that can actually, I guess, hiccup a yard or two by finding a defensive formation that can stop it. And I've heard other fools say, well, this isn't rugby. Fine. It may not be rugby, but it still is a man sport, and you still win in the trenches. And this is a trench thing. Find the way on the defensive trenches to stop it. But if you basically want to not have that, that's on you. Oh, well. I really am disliking the competition committee because you should not even entertain what the Packers levied to you. Okay, that's it for me because I'm going to get more and more upset. Goodness gracious. Woosah. Oh, I'm sorry. Your thoughts, sir?
Absolutely crushed it with this one, man, because these guys have been absolute snowflakes with how they've been handling the situation. Just like I had to put in this graphic here. Hopefully it told enough of the story to kind of help complement what you were trying to tell, because you absolutely knocked it out of the park, and
Thank you, sir.
look forward to seeing what actually comes about it. But when people are getting all upset and butthurt over this whole tush push thing, there's a lot more out there that is important that they need to be focusing on rather than just that.
I agree. Oh, man.
As long as it's one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the program. Welcome to the post game. This is where we give our thoughts of the week that was in football. And for his final thoughts, Drew, I cede the floor to you.
You know I'm not wrong about Joker.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Thought I was done. Nah, man, look at this dude right here. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm done. I don't want to go back and forth. I don't have time for all that. No, I'm just kidding. All right. That was the last time I'm going to click the button. All right. Even though. All right. What up?
You okay?
All right. I had to one more time. No, it was a fun weekend, between doing the play-by-play on Friday and then, it was Saturday. My apologies. Between doing the play-by-play on Saturday and, just watching UFL football. The football is back, y'all. I mean, it is back. We've some of y'all out there not as hyped about it because I know we've got basketball right now. It's March Madness. Most people right now are tuning this down because of March Madness. But hey, we're down to the Final Four, so it's almost over for that, and it's almost over. And yes, baseball is back. But you are not going to watch 162 games of baseball. All right.
Sure ain't.
You got 2 months, 2.5, about 3 months professional football, y'all. We are 2 weeks in to our return from hiatus. My computer last week, whatever the computer, StreamYard, whatever the expletive, was telling me to not take a break again. So I'm here. I've been dropping bombs all for the past 2 hours the best I can, to make up for that. I feel bad still about that audio because it was so bad. It was so bad for that hour. The last half of the episode wasn't bad, but just glad that everything worked out. Glad I was able to make some upgrades this week too, to where I could also do what I did this past weekend. The play-by-play was nice to have, but to have football though as a discussion at this point to where we're, a day away from April Fool's Day. I'm so glad our show's not on Tuesdays. Like they did not have an April Fool's episode, but when it comes to this time of the year, like we've had a lot of free agent moves at this point to where we were able to recap that stuff when we first came back last week. Right. There's still a few pieces that are lingering out there, including Captain Ayahuasca that we have yet to see a resolve from. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he drags this thing out into the summer, and the Steelers let it hang on out. And I wouldn't be surprised if still at some point in the back door somewhere there's an angle to where he could still get into Minnesota. So between Pittsburgh and Minnesota, Captain Ayahuasca, be on the lookout. But for my final thoughts, between talking about, the UFL and what we saw this past weekend, what I was able to do to be a part of it, to those of you out there who watched the stream and was a part of it and participated, or even if you were able to watch later, thank you for tuning in, being a part of that. I look forward to doing that again. Look forward to doing this again. 78 episodes in the books, and we crushed it again today, my man.
I agree. And wonderful final thought, and definitely crushed it. You definitely did a great job this weekend and today, and totally appreciate you as always.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I think, my partner did such a great job. My brother did such a great job. I'm going to have to big him up by talking about his favorite team. And reason being, I've mentioned this off and on the last year and a half. People are inclined to say football is always better when you have the Steelers and the Cowboys be competitive. My thought was, I lived at a time when I was young where the Steelers and the Cowboys weren't competitive at all. And yeah, I was born around the era when the Steelers and Cowboys were going to Super Bowls every year. But in my grammar school and junior high and high school days, well, the Steelers weren't that competitive of a team, and neither were the Cowboys. But there was one team that was, and along with the new breed, I guess you could say, with the Giants and the 49ers that were competing, it was the the slur, but they're no longer slur. They're now called the Commanders. But the energy that RFK Stadium had for Washington, it was great. It was great to see, even for a person who wasn't a fan of the team. And it sucked to see how the Commanders degenerated into almost a bunch of nothingness and a whole ton of jokes. And then we got a chance to see them rise up to places that just about nobody but maybe the locker room expected. And that is actually being one step away from the Super Bowl. And they hadn't had that happen in 33 years. So now we are getting a chance to see a team in the nation's capital actually try to build a Super Bowl contender from the ashes of a great season, a season that I think people were not expecting. And with two of the moves that I've seen from grabbing outside of the team, one in Laramie Tunsil from the Texans and one from Debo Samuel from the 49ers, it makes me think, wow, I think they're going to be must-see TV for sure beyond Jaden Daniels. And not to be outdone, the re-signings of Zach Ertz and good Lord, and Fred Warner, doggone it, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. But I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it at Zach Ertz. The re-signing of him, since he was a Commander the season before, that's making me think this team knows what they're doing. They have the finger on the pulse, and it's not just we're going to make the fans happy only. They're making good, sound football decisions and moves. And it is wonderful from this football analyst to actually see the Commanders be competitive, because now it's going to be a thrill and a rush to actually see this team in October, November, December, and January actually have a say as to how things go in the National Football Conference. And that's something I haven't been able to say since I graduated from high school. So to actually sort of have a throwback toward a team that used to be great, and I do really mean great, maybe return to greatness, I think that's great. I think it's wonderful. And I hope that what they decide to do in the draft in the upcoming month, it fortifies further that they believe they have a team that can contend, and not just for the NFC East. And let's hope that they contend for years to come, because it's not just good for those who are Commanders fans. It actually is good for the National Football League, and I'm looking forward to see how they do compete in 2025 and beyond.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Any thoughts you have, sir, before we do let the tribe go?
I was drawing a blank with who you were talking about, though. I was trying to think of who it was, so that way I could chime in on it, but I'm still drawing a blank on that. If anybody out there like sick or somebody wants to comment on this, after the show, or where we do that, we can revisit that. But it's all good when it comes to the
got it.
Who?
Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner, yes. The leadership over there for the defense,
Yes.
Definitely. He is like the quarterback of the defense as far as the leadership. Yeah, absolutely.
Why the 49ers, well, the person who actually would be that for the 49ers, Fred Warner, came to my brain. I was like, no, not him. So I was like, fine, I'll get to the name. But yeah, Bobby Wagner. I thought that was a big, I agree with you last week. I thought that was a huge re-signing.
Just health is going to be the big thing with that's why there's so many teams in the league. It's any given Sunday, so many things and options. We can't predict what we saw last year to happen again. So,
right.
It's only up from here, they say, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a regression of some sort. But overall, though, they're doing the right things
Right.
to
Right.
where if there's advancement from what we saw last year, there will be no surprises from that at this point. I
Right.
think a major regression would be a total surprise.
Right.
But as far as what we're seeing from last offseason to this point in the offseason, they are making all the right decisions. And I appreciate the kind words, and hopefully everything continues to stay on the up and up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just had to do the big up because I'm like, man, I'm liking what I'm seeing from the front office there. I mean, they're making sound football decisions. I'm like, man, I can't remember the last time I could say that about them. Like, they're making sound football decisions. And I'm like, I'm not even a fan of theirs, and I'm excited. So yeah, no question. No question. Anything else do you have before we do let the tribe go?
No, I'm all good.
All right. Well, I am all good too. It has been a pleasure, and it always is a pleasure to share the stage with you, sir.
Absolutely.
And doing this for the 78th show is wonderful. Now, if you feel inclined to reach out to my brother Drew, all you have to do is go on to one of these plentiful social media channels. You can go to Instagram at Sertoba_media. You can go to X at Sertoba_media as well. You can also go to TikTok at _Sertoba. And you can go to, of course, YouTube.com at Sertoba Media. And if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. You will not be disappointed in whatever content that comes from that channel. You can also reach out to me at floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, that does it for number 78 for Total Football Talk. We're glad that you joined us. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch everything that comes from the Sertoba Media YouTube channel and or the Coleman Media YouTube channel. We appreciate it and you. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And as always, remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
See.